opportunity to collaborate and do some collective ownership. Okay, so the question we're going to start with here is around AI and the environment. Specifically, what role does AI play in addressing the most urgent environmental challenges today? So before we pass over to you, I'm going to give you some things that might help to frame up a little bit. So in terms of, quote, necessity is intervention, the environment is suffering, there's drastic changes, and we are on the tipping point of irreversible damage. So this is a time of necessity for the environment. Some numbers here, and some of these are quite familiar, and there's many other numbers I can bring, but just kept it sort of streamlined for here. In the world, 71% of surface area is water. Of that 71%, 97% is oceans. As we look at data from NOAA 2023, based on historical data from data being captured in 1858, in 2023, 17% of the world had record temperatures. That's huge. Of that, 29% of the population is being impacted. What is 29%? That's 2.3 billion people are being impacted by these increasing temperatures. I looked into where temperatures are decreasing. Not really decreasing anywhere. When we think about precipitation and rainfall, we're seeing, again, 2023 a year of records. I've listed out parts where we're seeing below rainfall and then where we're seeing above rainfall. And if anybody is interested in taking a look further at this data, it is available in that 2023 report that I've highlighted up here on the slide. So thinking about urgent issues, and what does that mean? There's a framework that I apply for this. So in terms of urgent issues, is it ecological? Meaning, is it immediate? Is it in the future? Is it going to impact ecosystems? Is it going to impact society, economy, way of living? Is there a tipping point, as previously mentioned, potentially for irreversible? And for attention, we need to get the attention of key audiences. So this is what I did in my own work here, working with policymakers, scientists, and the community. And as we think about what is the role of AI, how can AI help in all of this? There's some thoughts that I just put down here as conversation starters, and what I'd love to pass on over to you for your thoughts over this question. Of course, AI is notorious for real-time analysis, pattern recognition, anomaly detection, alert and monitoring. Fantastic for forecasting. Crisis alerts, we get these on our phone all the time. There's also a lot of products being built off the back of AI. We think of robotics, and especially in my experience, we blend the ocean, sea level rise with heat. We see coral bleaching, coral die off, and algae take over its red targets. So we have coral robotics being used. That's one for AI. We have bioreceptive barriers. What does that mean? In Europe, they've actually come up with moss that you can plant on top of concrete. That absorbs the water. And it also absorbs carbon dioxide. So as we think about green spaces in our community, here and globally, there are options for that to be grown off the back of AI, no pun intended. And then we have services, of course, alerts as mentioned, there's mapping, there's Google Earth Engine, Microsoft Planetary Compute. And for me, my head jumps to open access to data. I would love to see all of this data housed in a more open platform. We have like New York City open data and there's other sets, but really coming together as a global collective to open source these data so we can work together. So with all of that said, and over to you all, what role does AI play in addressing the most urgent environmental challenges today? So I'd love to hear some thoughts. Please don't be shy. Does anybody work in environment or nobody from environment here? No hands up for environment, so it could be a
Maybe from a top perspective, watching kind of, I guess, leveraging certain technology, whether it's drone or otherwise, to see how climate is impacting specific areas, right? Getting broader coverage, kind of anticipating changes there.
Could I grab a microphone for Sarah, maybe, or could you say it one more time a little louder? Sorry, Sarah.
It's okay. Crops, like looking at crops from the perspective of leveraging technology
That sounds good, actually. Yeah, so pattern recognition and detection. Does anybody in the room in here work in that particular field and that could apply? Oh, hands up. Can we get some more? About maybe some of the stuff that you're doing. So the gentleman here works in crop science, and he's using AI for data pipeline. So we'd love to hear a little bit about that if you're able to share.
Yeah, just so one is that I worked on a little hackathon recently where we were trying to predict the change in the price of corn and soybean as it relates to like calendar spreads. So I was actually going in a very good batch workflow against different models, feeding them some of the recent pricing data, the futures market, kind of fine tuning the crops a little bit. Then further classifying them with an extra classification algorithm to see what their decision is. Is the soybean price going to continue to go down? Should be selling out of that? This market's like an exploratory thing, but there's people in the AI space that are
That's great. So it's growing. That's all.
yeah, that's probably
So it sounds like you're using AI for some sort of price elasticity modeling.
that was just one example.
Yeah.
I'm actually working on something very similar to the last one we were talking about. It's like a sort of natural language with SQL and QC alpha, turning it into actual data and visualization.
So that's an end-to-end pipeline example, which is
Yeah.
great because our data visualization is in very our organizations. That goes to whether we put on our websites or reports, that's a critical output of all of this. And I think the example you gave really talks to back to societal impacts, as you mentioned, the revenues and economies and things like that, and learning capabilities and potential.
Totally,
That's
yeah.
a really good example, Brian.
Sure.
There was another lady at the back, there's one in the back now.
Go ahead.
It's gone down.
I can actually talk really loud. I'll try anyway. And I'm not going to talk long because I talked already today. But I did a project, several projects with Winfield United. I mentioned them earlier today. They're the dairy farmers of America. So to your point on crop protection, and one thing they've started doing, and actually it's good old AI. So it's been this technology has been around for like a decade. But about 5 years ago, they started to do a lot of greenhouse testing so they could cycle through an entire crop rotation in weeks instead of years, which is what it used to take. So you wouldn't know the problem until that crop rotation had already expired. And so they could do the research, but it would just take them exponentially longer. Now they're doing those hyper focused in smaller crop greenhouses. And now they're leveraging, of course, computer vision to detect crop decay much, much earlier, like beyond anything a farmer can use. And the way generative AI got in play, which was last year when I worked with them, is that they are now giving that information in a natural language, super understandable way to farmers so that they can take action immediately while in their tractor on the field, which is very interesting. Caterpillar as well as John Deere have integrated these reaction systems into their industrial manufacture. So everything from like the type of tread you use on the type of soil, wherever you are in the world, like who knew, with generative AI is helping them build dynamic tread evaluation if you're using the right tread on the right soil, as one example. So I think that's good news. I'm not sure, I'm a little bit worried that research is not making commercialized success. So we've got a lot of good data that shows that this is working. I don't know that there's enough companies on the planet focused on commercializing that research so that we can use it to actually save the planet. Like, I'm not sure how that's, right now it's a gap. I don't know how I saw that. Maybe one of you will be that person. I took a selfie with y'all, so I can't wait to say I knew that person again. But yeah, so great question, and thank you for that question, by the way. Very good.
We've got ethical AI coming up, so we can see where you're tracking a little bit. But I think that's a really good case of creating efficiencies and taking out, of course, that human error factor as well. Actually thinking of agriculture, believe it or not, once upon a time I was helping to design fatigue monitoring. This was back in Australia on the agriculture kids, so how they're and mining, which that's redeeming myself. Alright, so ethical AI, the question we have here, which we're going to circle back to, is your AI doesn't work for humanity. So as we move forward, making sure that we, which I'm sure we all do here, we embed that in our day-to-day thinking and we feed that back into the other people within that decision-making sphere. When we think about ethical AI, and this is honestly one of my most favorite topics to talk about, so I kept this slide nice and short. There's a couple of things here. It's back to the quote before. It's making sure that we're sampling correctly. And quite often I see when we're sampling the population is there's not always the rigor applied to have a representative framework against the sample. So making sure that we are representing all of the population is to be included in the outputs for our modeling. And there is statistical calculations available. Happy to chat with anybody on that after the session. And then as well on top of that, just thinking about the model training, we all know here, check for biases. Make sure that we are bringing in accurate data and representative data. Then secondly, on the carbon footprint here, a lot of us forget there's things that are out of mind out of sight. If you think for a moment, think to your inbox. Think of all of those 1 or 2 word emails where somebody has sent you a thank you, or maybe you sent a thank you. That's the only copy you've got on the bottom. Maybe there's pitch decks that never made it to the cutting room floor and they're just sitting in your inbox. All of that is taking up valuable space. So that's all sitting there on the servers. It's costing the company money, but it's also costing the environment. As are our selfies, so I encourage you to clean off your phones. We've got 5 photos and similar things to try to get it down to 1. Because then the impact on the environment for this is we know that there's server farms being built. We know that within the oceans in the Arctic, they're burrowing in. There's many organizations now burrowing in, which is going to lead to, of course, increased heat within the ocean. So please think about that, and you can sell into your organizations. It's going to create cost efficiency. So maybe for COVID, think about having an inbox clean now or something like that. And in IT, you can see the data that was going up and down, so it makes for a good report. So just talking about some of those things there that come to mind for me, and passing it back to you, recapping the question. How do we ensure ethical AI when tackling environmental issues? What about AI's environmental footprints? Thought you were coming to an answer. All right. Anybody have any thoughts on AI and ethics and environment? Or perhaps working on something that's powered up?
So I was at a marketing advertising client maybe 2 years ago, and one of their biggest initiatives was showing their clients their carbon footprint for advertising. And we told them that's something we were saying every year, and invite their clients to talk about how they're going to minimize it with the number of advertising friends or digital ads that they're running, and being very mindful of that and adding that to their budget when doing advertising campaigns.
Actually, that's a really good point. So thinking of advertising, because we have programmatic advertising nowadays, we have DSPs and SSPs for people who are in that world, and we create multiple ad sets whenever we're trafficking out. Maybe a campaign has 5 different tactics, and then within each of those tactics, you might have up to 10 different creatives. So they sit there, as you say, they just sit there and it's close to space and proof of the earth. Very good example. So you're saying that was New York, and that was a workshop with the clients in Spain.
Yeah, helping create a framework to show their clients how much they're leaving carbon with their campaigns. And then from that, they started having a conference summit every year to kind of show off that work.
That's great. So that adds in accountability as well. Does anything else spring to mind for ethics, AI, and the environment?
I guess, Rebecca, on the flip side, there has been a lot of discussion around the compute and kind of having enough energy as things become more scalable, so there is an environmental perspective to that, not necessarily ethical, but that's maybe another tangent.
That might talk you to the next point.
Well, I can speak from the data center perspective on that tangent. Our company, IM, just purchased a data center up the street. We're founding members of the Infrastructure Basins Climate Accord, which is where data centers globally have to build out for AI now, and it's much, much higher energy intensity. So data centers are creating a global pact, trying to get ahead of regulation on this, where the industry will work on using AI for better energy efficiency, and also, of course, renewable energy in our data centers. And
proactive on the ground with the collective group. What was
Tom Ellison with IM Data Centers.
fantastic? Thank you, Tom. I just see another hand.
I don't work at an organization that's investing in this specifically, but I am in the AI strategy space, especially around ethical AI. And so I know something that recently came up as the EU AI Act, which helps quantify the risk and harms associated with certain AI systems. Do you think there will be a requirement to consider environmental impact and environmental harm as a risk of AI systems and then mitigate that appropriately?
Okay, I've got certain words. AI, impacts, requirements.
Yes, it'll happen in the EU
We can grab the mic.
I can be loud. I thought it was really so the EU AI Act just came out, and in that they quantify certain harms and risks that are associated with different systems. And in order to either put out a system and validate it properly, you have to make note of what you're doing. You have to comply with certain regulations to ensure that you're mitigating harms. Do you think we're moving toward a space where environmental harm and the consequences of that is something that will be written into regulations to properly mitigate before deployment?
I really hope so. It's not a conversation that I'm engaging in, which is very unfortunate, but I have to tell my
As I said, we're trying to beat regulation in the U.S., but that will happen in the EU, before other locations. But what this climate accord is intending on doing is providing a QR code on the front door of any data center that signs up for this, that you can walk up and get the real-time carbon footprint of that facility, in operation in that moment in time, and also all the historical data. So that's going to help a lot.
in public
To
visibility.
manage that.
I think the EU is doing a lot of really good things in this space. They're really ahead. Fun fact, you can't say carbon neutral when it's seen as a greenwashing term. So that's one term that's been recently banned. Anybody want to add anything else or open up other questions on this topic?
Maybe not environmental, but at least with AI, we have a lot of existing regulations on community activities for something that I have to service like underrepresented communities. I think now that having a push towards funding the internet to basically try and do more segmentation to find alternatives that get access to the better because we have a lot of access and provide that are still risky but still can be provided with drones that find so that will help including communities what we call it as with a push towards that bans. And no bans have regulations that you have to do stuff like this even more because now it's going to make more simpler and then it's going to be more yes, we that since we are complex and we are targeting good response. You just have to see that more like that.
I think the work you're doing, you touched on equity, and that's such a critical topic in what we're doing. When we're creating equitable societies, not everybody has the same access to the internet, computing, and software. Recently, I was in a country where they have, deliberately not going to mention the name, where they have limited access to even education, where they're told what their education courses are. And I asked them, do you know about Coursera? Do you know about MIT Expert? They have not heard of any of these courses, so the education system is threatened at that point as well. All right, the last one here. Environmental AI trends. And I know everybody's got a trend here, so don't be shy. What are the trends at the intersection of AI and sustainability? So there's my quote here, which is not one of my favorites, of course. Logic will get you from A to Z. Imagination will take you everywhere. So going back to the beginning where we spoke about necessity being the mother of invention, and the topics that we've spoken about here, I think that applying our imagination along with the data, left and right brains to develop solutions, AI solutions for the environment, we're at that time now. And in terms of trends, one of the things that comes up to mind for me is green algorithms. So, a lot of us were used to creating algorithms that are green because they save organizations money. They run faster, they take up less space. But they're also green. There's less pollution as a result, less carbon footprint. So I'm starting to see a focus on green algorithms within the environmental space. So that's one trend I wanted to share with you and pass on over for thoughts.
The other trend that I see is that he's doing a lot of things right now. There are moving. Google has started to work on building CPU sets, which are able to hardcode and transform our architecture inside it, so that will increase the speeds, so which means better electricity or so I think that has they are piloting on that right now, and we will start seeing them all over the years. And the other thing is also that we are also looking at another dimensions of transformer architecture that's completely different, which they are trying to come up with a system that is only words Gemini. I think I was fortunate to be able to sit down reading this. This was really back in safety market country, India, where they have come up with a specific chipset that would basically is the opposite of transformers controllers, but it's able to run the same at a lesser capacity, footprint, and at the same time able to faster speeds as well. And I think this was in IISc that they are on that, and they are also trying to basically they are providing this information to IISc to basically use those hierarchies to that. That's why they're trying to apply that initially, and at some point of that they will have to show this to all because so
Things are coming. Is anybody working in the space with chips and transformers? We're going to tie into this conversation. Actually, I'd love to hear some more of anybody in this. Has anybody else, touched on any technologies that they're working with, any ML where they are, maybe they haven't realized that it is contributing to the environment or it has an application for the environment?
I have a perception that even though if you don't think of it being good for the environment, it's gonna be. Because and my point is, if you are developing a model, for example, to optimize the routes that trucks are delivering things. In the moment that you optimize the routes, it is less trucks on the street and they are being moving less miles, so it's gonna be beneficial for the environment. I think every time that we try to optimize the things for real life, we are somehow doing something good for the environment. When the electric companies use some kind of artificial intelligence to identify where there is leak of energy, where it's gonna be, where it's not just about consuming less energy in one specific computer or in one specific chip. But if FPL is using a model to identify the places where we are just spending energy for nothing, and they use this algorithm to cut the places where we are just wasting power, it already helps the environment. So my point is that I don't always have to build the model with the intention of helping the environment. Somehow when I optimize a process, even for noise containment, you see that before you had a lot of steps, and now I have less steps. I was not thinking of consuming less energy or helping the environment. I was just trying to optimize the process, make it faster, make it cheaper. But somehow it also helps the environment.
That's true. A lot of these are born from cost efficiencies or operational efficiencies. And you remind me of a project I was working next to a team on. It was actually the best path or fastest route, best path algorithm for trucks. And so for them, they want to get things faster to the point. But then there was tied to that was the cost of rubber. Rubber is extremely expensive. And then there's the downtime if, for truck goes real or whatever. But indirectly, by doing best path, they're actually getting more mileage out of it rather than wheels. So that, to your point, is an accidental positive for the environment. One who, when we are environmentally minded, we can sort of amplify those conversations within our organization and those missions as well.
And I think people like you that are really working and putting effort and energy on that, it's good to take advantage and leverage the business ideas we have in the company. Because we always want to save on the cost. We are not sometimes we're not thinking of the environment or DEI. It is more like the top priority. But cutting cost is always the top priority. Like increasing their revenue, cutting costs are high priority. So if you can, at the same time, doing something that's more optimal, I think it's gonna be like, you can tell the company, you are gonna have like a pre-label for a million. It was not meditation, but it's more than know-how. That you have these, but originally, anyway, the top priority was to increase the revenue or the costs.
That's true.
That's happening.
How many organizations do you have a dedicated ESG team or environmental sort of team within their companies? Number one, you're leading a track, 2, 3, almost a handful. We'll get there. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up now. Keep it quite going. But if you want to stay in touch, please do. We'd love to continue conversations with people here. And is there any closing thoughts? Has this conversation sort of sparked any new ideas